Baby, it's time to ride the funk train and Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas and Kwanzaa and Slap an Atheist Day or whatever you celebrate. We're here on the mothership. It's Funkmaster V, his old buddy John Silverback, the second 7800 Pro System gamer, whatever he goes by. And then look down below. My goodness, Crossbow from Ivory Tower Collections. Good grief. This is everybody that's ever written a review for the Atari 7800 Forever website in one place. And we're going to have a knife fight to the death. And then whoever wins will be crowned Queen Pretty of Atari7800forever.com. Hello, everyone. We got people pouring in already. Good grief. It's like we're a real thing, John.
Right. Yeah, look at that. It's 30th already, long ago. How we doing? How was Christmas, Vinny?
Mine was good. No break-ins. I live on the crime-free hill up here in Morristown, Tennessee, and Pill City. And you live in Toledo. I'm from Baltimore, so we're used to a little crime. We're used to that around Christmas time, but nothing this year. No dog napping or anything. How was your Christmas, sir?
Mine was fine. It was fairly low key. My wife had her family over mostly, and stayed for a little while. Well, the tower is a fairly large place, so there's room. There's room. There's room. Yeah. And then I did what I did best, which is just kind of stay in the back in the game room.
Nice.
Do you have anybody in your wife's family that likes, like, you have got any nephews or kids that like hanging around playing games, or is that?
No, not so much anymore.
Is it weird that we may be, or maybe the millennials, maybe gaming like we've got set up is going to be a thing of the past soon, because everything's going to cell phones and smaller devices, that these large rooms with all these systems and stuff are just going to be looked at as like, we're going to be looked at.
I definitely think that as Gen Xers, which is the primary, dominant generation that does this, we're pretty much the last on that, because both of my boys were pretty avid PC gamers when they were younger. As they got older, one of them still likes to play PC games, but he's more of like the more simpler stuff, not necessarily what you play on your phone, but I'm trying to think of something that he probably still plays on his computer that's just not like super high end. He's just not no, nothing quite like that. No, but I mean, like, he's still into Pokemon games, so he'll even though he's in his 20s, he still plays the newer Pokemon games on his Switch. But my youngest was all about first person shooters. He even used to do the Team Fortress stuff for quite a while, but I think he's mostly gotten out of a lot of that.
We're going to be like, we are going to be the ham radio operators. They're going to look at us like that. Like, hey, he's got all them electronics from like 1988 in here. What in the world is he doing? Yeah, you've been spotted. Justin from Atari IO is recognized Mr. Crossbow himself. And
well, actually, it's pretty rare. Actually, seeing me in my face is a pretty rare occurrence. I do a pretty good job of trying to hide it in most of my videos, because as I've explained to people before, I am not the subject of the videos that I do for the channel. What the video is on is the subject, and
I would disagree.
And I'm just the narrator. I'm just the narrator, and
that's totally opposite of what I. In fact, most of my video reviews, my face sitting there going, "I don't know why it sucks," and it's like 5 seconds. But anyway, that's just, I'm a megalomaniac. But yes, you're not for a Gen X video game guy. You're actually probably like an 8.5, dude. You should be on your videos more. A lot of these dudes are ugly as shit. Have you seen some of these guys?
No, it's not. I mean, I'm not interested in that necessarily. And as it is, I mean, anybody that is subbed to my channel is quite aware of the fact that it's almost been a year since I really put up a good video on anything.
Wow, and there's so much to talk about. That's crazy. Right. Are you overwhelmed?
Well, the simple truth is that over the past couple of years, the side gig, which we have COVID really to thank for really making it fruitful for me, is absolutely a second job at this point, because I work a normal day job, 8 to 5, at an office, real boring stuff. But then, yeah, I'll come home, and I will frequently joke with my wife when I say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm going to start my second shift now," and that's me going up to the lab to start working on a service request. Because there's always something here. There's always something here that I've got from somebody that wants work done.
Well, tell everybody in case they don't know, because it's astounding to me that people are always like, there's a thing called the Atari 7800. There's people that just don't know. I think we assume that everybody knows who we are, but tell everybody what you do, because it's pretty unique.
Well, I don't think it's all that unique necessarily. We're modders and techs like myself are a dime a dozen, honestly. Which you mean like what I do on the channel, I assume is what you're asking?
No, I think what you do is unique because you're kind of like everybody bounces off of you. Like, I don't know. I mean, you do Atari type modding for people, and you've kind of got it down to a science. And I think it may.
I don't have to look at I don't have to look at documentation too much anymore these days. No.
What would you assume, John? Is there anybody? Do you know? Can you name another guy that does what Crossbow does? Offhand.
I can name quite a few, but again, that's also because I'm part of like Facebook groups that specialize in modding consoles or upgrading them, things like that. Where I think I probably might stand out a little bit is that there's not as many people who do Atari itself.
Right.
And really hardly anybody does in television, which was something I've really started to pick up on over the last 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I've probably been doing more in television consoles over the last 2 years for service requests than Atari consoles. But having said that, part of the reason for this whole conversation, because Vinny, you had asked or had brought it up, is that, the stuff I do on the side, repairing the systems, upgrading them, things like that, that has really taken up a lot more time. So much so that I just really don't have not so much the motivation. I just don't have the time I need to be able to plan like I would like to be able to do some of the videos. In fact, I've got another install procedural video similar to the others that I've done that's actually been filmed and sitting in a can halfway edited since April of this year. And I've just not gotten back to it to finish it up. And I think it would be one that's nice to have because I don't think anyone else has done a video on this procedure yet or on this particular process. So, yeah. And then what time I do have that's freed up when I'm not busy working on somebody's console, that's the rare opportunity, it seems like these days, where I can spend some time for myself or sit down and actually play some games again. So
that's a great point. I'm getting overwhelmed with projects myself, and it's like, man, sometimes I just want to sit on my butt. And especially the older I get, I feel like I'm getting a little less energetic about creating. Still, it's consumes my thoughts predominantly, but still, it's like sometimes I'm just going to sit down and just chill.
Yeah,
like regular people do, because that's something I've never done before.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's hard to find any free time, especially when you're doing everything Crossbow does, but the little bit that we do too.
Well, you've been and John, you've been ramping up your channel has had a meteoric rise, and it's really because you've done good content, but also mixes it with frequent content. So that's the most important.
Yeah, I tried to.
Yeah, I'm guilty of not ever providing a normal set schedule, but that's because I'll be honest on this. I never started the Ivory Tower Collections channel for it to be an awesome channel. Right, the reality and the truth is, and most people don't pick up on this if they watch the videos are filmed for myself. What I mean by that is I will actually go back to videos on something I've done a year or two ago to go back and look at what I did if I don't remember right offhand, or if I've got that same sort of similar issue in front of me. So there's sort of a video journal to my future self. And so, I joke to my wife whenever I'm making the videos. I'll say, hey, honey, I'm going to be talking to myself for a while. And she knows what that means. That means I'm going to be filming, making something for the channel. But that's also kind of the literal truth, right? I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to a future self of me that might need it as a reference.
Isn't it weird to go back and watch videos and go, I have no idea what I'm going to say? And you're like, this came out of my mouth. This wasn't actually too long ago. And I'm listening to it almost like for the first time. It freaks me out sometimes.
I don't know. One odd thing is I'm one of the few who doesn't have a rejection to hearing his own voice. And what that means is what I hear in a recording is basically what I actually hear. I know that's really strange because a lot of people, what they hear, their inner monologue in their head or what they hear when they talk doesn't match what they hear on a recording. And I think the first time I heard myself recorded was when I had an old boombox when I was like 10 years old. You know, with those, well, probably, I mean, I don't know how old John is, but Vinny will understand completely. I had this Sanyo tape deck cassette player with the speakers on it that was, you know, literally shoulder sized when I was about 10. And I can remember recording myself on that a few times. And I do remember when I was a kid, how different it sounded to hear it on a tape versus what I normally heard. But it wasn't too long after that that something switched, something flipped, and it started to sound the same to me. And so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but basically whenever I hear myself or I hear myself on a video or on recordings of any kind, that's just how I normally sound anyway.
Well, what's very bizarre is I grew up in Baltimore, then I moved down to Tennessee, and then I hung out with a lot of black folks. So all my how I talk is this weird amalgamation. And then when I got in the radio, I started trying to get that Midwestern, like Cincinnati, like, hey, the weather's, and so it changed my voice for like another time.
Right.
And so what happened was this sounds like when I'm speaking, it sounds like I'm putting on this voice, but it's actually my voice now, but it's exactly how I hear it in my head. But I know when I was a kid and I was in Baltimore, I thought, man, I sound weird compared to these people in Tennessee. And then eventually I would listen to it when I was a kid because I would tape myself doing skits and radio shows that nobody would hear on the tape, the actual physical tape like you're talking about. And then I would be like, man, I sound like a damn hillbilly now. And so it's now flitted around and changed. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
No, I've always been trying to be very careful about that. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily know where I'm from or where I live. And when they find out, they're sort of surprised because I don't necessarily sound like how they might.
You're in Missouri, right?
No, well, close. I'm in Oklahoma.
Oh, I thought, but you do sound like you're from like California or something that's like.
Right. I've had a lot of people. Well, I was a technology instructor at my previous job for almost 9 years. And it was funny because a lot of my students, which were service technicians that would come in to get training, they would think that I was from somewhere up north.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, I've lived here in Oklahoma my entire life. And they're just like, but you don't sound like, you know, this person or somebody else that I know from there. And it's it's a regional thing, to be honest, because in a lot of the rural and suburbs, and especially in the capital, Oklahoma City, you'll hear a lot more of the twang that you might expect.
Speaking
from somebody
of
from this
twang,
part of the world.
Speaking of twang, John, have you played? What's it called? Is it called Maximum Beverage? Have you played that one?
Oh, that new.
What's that new first-person shooter on the VCS, yeah. Right?
I have not picked it up yet. Have you played it?
I bought it today, and the reason I was kind of a little late. I was trying to get through the first level.
Okay. And
the main character, I don't know if he's trying to sound like he's from East Tennessee, but he sounds like, and whoever made it may have been a fan of The Fifth Element. Do you remember that Gary Oldman's character had a Southern accent in Outer Space, which is like just a weird thing.
Right.
He had a Southern. This guy is a foul mouth.
Only Gary Oldman could pull that off.
Yes. This character in this game has a foul mouth. He's from the South, but occasionally his accent drifts to almost something that sounds French when he's speaking English. I have no idea what they're going for with this character, but I did play the Maximum Beverage today, and I got to say, I'm excited. $9.99. You can't really beat that. It looks about like it's on graphically the par of Time Splitters 2 for PS2 and the GameCube. It's a first-person shooter. It's like Doom.
Okay.
And I wanted to kind of hate it for some reason because I'm just an asshole. But I'm like, this actually it works like a Doom. And even though the cutscenes are terrible, it has voice acting. Right. With weird accents. The first boss, you fight the first boss. There's a swerve that happens, and I think it sets up nicely what the whole game is about because it's actually named about beverages.
Right. Yep.
This guy basically, no spoiler alert, he kicks your ass, and it's because he's drinking the whole time. It sounds like my dad at Thanksgiving.
Right.
But
that's the premise of the game, though, right? The
Right.
drinks are power-ups, right?
Did you just say drinks? We've been talking about twanging in Oklahoma. And you just said drinks. Yes, the drinks. The drinks.
Yeah, there's the next question. Is it pop, soda, or Coke?
It's around me it's Coke, but I say soda pop.
We say
I just use soda here. Soda drinks.
So my question is then, do you prefer that game or Food Fight?
It's funny. I was going to do a video in the next 10 days. Maximum. Is it Maximum Beverage? Because I keep forgetting.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I hope it is. If anybody,
I don't have a fight on this one because although I do own an Atari VCS, it is still in the box untouched.
It's wonderful.
Collector's item.
I didn't buy it. It was a gift from one of my clients.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Nice gift.
That's a nice gift. Yeah.
Especially depending on when they bought it.
There's some. Well, I don't know when they bought it, but I received it back at the beginning of November, I think.
Oh, okay.
So
and it wasn't expected. It just kind of showed up, and they said, "Oh, hey, did you happen to get a package today?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, well,
open it.
It happens to be." And I was like, "Oh, well, nice. Why is that?" "Well, you said you didn't have one." I said, "Well, yeah, but that's because I really didn't have anything on it that 100% interests me, but that's okay." So I'll admit it's still in the box. I haven't touched it, but I did pick up the 2600 plus.
Oh, nice.
Did you? I finally caved and ordered one.
Well,
it's coming tomorrow.
Let's answer John's question first. I just want to put my 2 cents out there.
Go ahead.
By the way, if you have an Atari VCS, this is a good time to buy games because there's so many sales going on right now. That I bought 4 games today for less than $20, and one of them was Maximum Beverage, and I bought Revan Tully's Dragon Trilogy.
You bought all 3?
I bought all 3. They're $4.99 each.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a great deal, and I want to support the 7800 flavor on the VCS.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do think his Dragon Trilogy is very unique, and stuff like that needs to be supported. And they're good games too. And me and you have the differences, John, of what's the best game of the trilogy. So, and we a big variance. But to answer the question, Maximum Beverage, if I'm saying that right, is better than Food Fight. And I know that's probably going to make a lot of Atari people sad, but I haven't spent a lot of time. But Food Fight is just there's not enough people online. It's going to run thin unless something happens and you didn't play. We were supposed to play last night, so we could talk about it, and we didn't get to play because you're a jerk.
I noticed neither one of us though was really pushing to play.
I just got a brand new dog, and my other dog was acting weird, so it was going to be an interesting evening anyway. And the dog is effing cute, by the way, so it was I wanted to look at it, but Food Fight's fun. I did a review on my channel, which is Big and Funky Productions. Food Fight Culinary Combat is fun. Mm-hmm. The graphics are a little chintzy. They did put a lot of work into it. You could see that. It doesn't glitch out bad. Playing online is smooth, and it is fun. On my review, I said I like King of the Cone the best, but I actually think I like Crumbling best now that I've played it more because it's like a miniature Fortnite. Yeah, the screen kind of crumbles.
Is that what Fortnite is?
Fortnite? What is up with your accent tonight? Are you really,
I don't
John? Are you an alien?
the Toledo's coming out. So
good grief. Well, Fortnite is a battle royal game. But it normally takes about a half an hour to play a game of Fortnite, or 15 minutes. And the screen shrinks, or it's like the movie Battle Royale or Hunger Games, or something like that. And it's cartoony, and I should have mentioned that in my review, that it's like Fortnite in a way. But the crumbling thing, it's a battle royal, last man standing, and the screen shrinks during the game, and it's fun. And Food Fight is fun, and it's still in beta, so they may improve it even more, and they got to add more characters and make the sprites look a little bit better. But
let me ask you, Benny, how many people were you able to play against at one time? Real people?
There's no way to tell. Because it fills with bots.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
when you first start, people can join. But once you're in the game, can they join?
I have, well, what happens, and this is another knock against it, is once you play a game, it backs you out and you have to go back
all the
online
way.
again
Yep.
to create another room.
Yeah.
So that's not great.
No, but it's not difficult to start a new match either. So
No, it just takes about a minute or so. And in Splatoon, I always talked about Splatoon and Food Fight in the review. And people, I've gotten
Right.
messages like, I don't know what Splatoon is. And I'm like, I can't help that you live under a rock. I mean, it's a
That's one of the games my boys do know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Splatoon is great.
It's,
And
it's good.
I couldn't get it. I couldn't get into it. I've never been into those battle royale type games. So
yeah.
Well, I like the painting. The thing I liked about Splatoon is that if you're not good at killing people, you can paint the floor.
Right.
And so you can have like a different, you can kind of almost have like a support role or whatever. But anyway, the question being, I don't think I've played against another human being. And one guy was on my review comments and he was like, I've never had a problem getting a bunch of people to play. And I'm like, you're playing against a bunch of bots.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't display your name. You're just playing. And he was like, oh, that may be it. And it's fun. The bots are, the AI is good enough to where you're like, I'm sitting there jumping and shucking and jiving and throwing tomatoes at people.
They're doing the same thing. Yeah.
And it's not like they're easy to wipe out or anything.
And you can actually increase the difficulty too. Have you messed with their difficulty at all?
I stay. It's plenty of challenge on the first level, dude.
Yep.
To be honest.
Supposedly you can set it up 2 more levels, but I haven't had to. So
yeah.
I have
a hard enough time winning on the goof level.
Well, on the subject of that, I mean, Vinny, you've been talking about how, you were talking about the new Food Fight and also about, did you say Maximum Beverage? I think you said it was called.
Yeah.
What else have you, John, what have you played over the holiday? Did you play any games over the holiday season?
Not a whole lot. Actually, what I've played the most probably is Mr. Run and Jump.
Oh, okay.
So I got that.
For the Atari 2600 or the VCS version? Okay.
Nope, 2600 version.
Well, how's that?
It's at first I thought it was incredibly easy. I thought I was going to blast right through the game, but it's actually pretty challenging, pretty interesting to play. It's hard to get footage of, I'll tell you that much, because they had to apply some tricks to get all the sprites on the screen. So I recorded some stuff on OBS that I was going to put on the channel, and half the sprites aren't showing half the time because
even at 60 frames.
Sure. I don't know what I'm recording at. So
gotcha. Well, because a trick that I found, I haven't done it in a while, but on that subject, the Vectrex is a pretty hard system to video because of the nature of how it works. Right. And the camera that I use, the same one that I have right now, has the ability for me to drop it down to 24 frames.
Okay.
And I discovered that was the secret to getting Vectrex recordings to look decent, was to drop it down to 24 frames, because at that point, the camera is slower than the Vectrex. So the Vectrex's refresh rate being higher, the camera being behind, there's more of that persistence of vision that takes place, and it doesn't seem to flicker as bad.
I'll have to look into that, because it's like, even on the screen, the flicker is pretty bad. You can tell that they're really, flickering the sprites to get everything on the screen.
Right.
So in the recording,
I've seen videos of it. I don't own it, but I've seen videos of it.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'll have to look into what you're saying, because that's probably the way to do it. But it's a fun game. It's a lot more challenging than I initially thought it was going to be.
It looks very rudimentary. Does it?
Yeah, that was my first impression going through the first 2 levels, but they have a lot of neat tricks they use to ramp up the challenge. And
well, that's why it's surprising you say it's hard to video, because it doesn't look like they're really pushing, like something like Galagon is something that really pushes the 2600 or something with sprites and things flying around. But that thing looked like 2 blobs. It looked worse than Save Mary, to be honest. Yeah. Now the VCS game and the one that's on Xbox and PS, that's a full-fledged, right? It looks like Jeff Minter game where all the psychedelic lights flying around and stuff. Have you played that yet?
The new one? No.
The Run and Jump. The one that was nominated for Platform of the Year.
Platform of the Year.
Which did not win, I don't think.
They can at least put nominee. Oh, that's done?
I don't know. I just nothing's going to beat Mario Wonder, I don't think.
No, I doubt it.
I haven't touched Mario Wonder. I haven't even picked it up yet.
I haven't
Yeah,
either.
I
I haven't
haven't.
either. I got behind me. I don't know if you guys can see. We were going to have Jeff Lindquist tonight to answer Crossbow's question.
Yeah.
Um, and he got sick with COVID, and so we pulled a we got Crossbow who's in the wings. We pulled him on deck, and I got 3 Video 61 games I've been putting off ordering. And we've kind of made snide remarks about Atari Age. I ordered this stuff like the first week of December, and I got it like a week later. And now people are in the comments talking about they just got their June order from Atari Age.
Yep.
And
Hey,
yet
I can add to that. About 2-3 weeks ago, whenever it was that John Champeau finally announced that he was going to be selling his games on his own web store, I got my copy of Elevator Action like 2 days ago.
Did you?
Well, heck yeah.
Yeah, I got my order. Yeah, probably 3-4 days ago. Whenever I texted you, Vinny.
Yeah, I still haven't got mine. So I'm going to go down to Texas
But
and put them in a figure for leg
again,
lock.
and then people bring this up, and I can speak about this firsthand because I've seen the process. And Albert is absolutely a one-man show.
Oh, I know.
At least as far as getting the games together. Now, the components like the PCBs, things like that, he gets those from other places.
Yeah. Yep.
He gets the boxes printed from printing houses, things like that. So, his house is essentially just full of boxes of stuff that's ready to be assembled, but he basically assembles the orders as they're ordered. It's not like he's got necessarily, a stack of, 100 games of this particular one already ready to go. He probably does if they're brand new releases, especially stuff he had done from Portland Retro that maybe didn't sell. Those are assembled, but anything that's sold out or that's he's just releasing or just announcing, he's got to assemble that stuff on a cart by cart basis. A lot of the games are programmed on the spot, so as a result, he is a one-man operation, and he does get a lot of orders. So
you're absolutely right, and I see a lot of people on Facebook, especially the Atari Age group, saying I placed my order 6 months ago. Where is it? He ripped me off. But he always sends the stuff out. You don't have to worry. Yeah, you don't have to worry. When you order from Atari Age, you're gonna get your stuff. It might take a while though.
We were just talking that here's the thing that's going to be interesting is because a whole universe of human beings that know what Atari is now going to drift over into Atari Age, and they're not going to know Albert. They're not going to know that Albert is responsible for basically keeping Atari alive. Yep. And that every time you see a picture of him, you see eyes and about 90,000 boxes. He looks like he's in a Vietnam jungle of boxes. And he's like, I can't breathe in here. And he's just overwhelmed. And so John and I were like, if he's really conflated with Atari, they need to have somebody come down and help. I don't know, hire some guys from.
I've actually reached out to him. I've actually reached out to him to offer to help assemble some things because there's really no reason. Because some of the stuff does still require hand solder work to assemble, and it's like, I'll just send me the chips, send me the boards or whatever, and I'll, when I've got some time on the side or whatever, I'll do some stuff and send it back to you. Because currently, now this will be changing, but currently, Albert's just one state south of me. So it's not like shipping is that big a deal because he would get most items within a day or within a couple of days of me sending them out.
Right.
But he's never really taken me up on that offer to help and assist. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's reached out to him.
A lot of people have, I'm sure.
I'm sure they have.
With Atari backing them now, though, you have to think they're going to help him in some way.
I don't know about that, but I'm worried that people are going to think that Albert is a thief or something because
one thing that we can definitely say, and I'm sure everybody, especially current members of Atari Age, the forums, and when I speak of Atari Age, it is important to note that there is both the Facebook group side of things, which has its own audience of frequent visitors and people, and then there's also the forums, which of course I'm part of both, but with the advent of the 2600 plus especially, there's been an influx of new people just rediscovering the systems all over again and finding out, wow, you mean there's new games I can buy for these? And we're like, yeah,
absolutely.
But those same people aren't going to know the history of Atari Age as you're talking about, and they don't know necessarily that it was initially started by two guys, Albert and Alex. And then eventually it was just kind of all under Albert. And so Yeah, I mean, I get the frustration from the same people that are ordering these things, but they just don't understand.
I made the mistake of 2 years ago. 2 years ago for my birthday, I asked my mom to get me something from Atari Age that was still a pre-order, and she was gracious. She got it for me, ordered it, and she emailed Albert about once a week for 2 months, threatening to demand a refund, all kinds of stuff. So I felt so bad for him having to deal with angry 65-year-old member of my family, but
from Toledo.
From Toledo, right?
He had a broken bottle in one hand and a cigarette in the other.
Yep.
She was going to come in on the guy. Now, I will say, so kudos to Video 61. They don't have a library like Atari Age, but
Right.
Lance is now, I can't wait. I hope we do interview him because he's got an amazing story. And with Kurt Vendel passing, and as we all get older and sicker and stupider and all that stuff, interviews from somebody back 40 years ago who actually knew the Tremels or Trammels or however you pronounce it. It's going to be interesting to talk to that guy. But this is a video game behind me. I'm about to review this. It's called Nova Wolf. It's a take on Solar Fox. They just released this thing. It's a pretty decent game. We'll get into I've never been a fan of Solar Fox. I thought it was a weird amalgamation of it. Basically, it's like somebody was like, hey, you know what? Kids like them space games and kids like them Pac-Man games. Why don't we?
I could be wrong on this, but I think Solar Fox exists as an arcade game as well.
It is, yeah. And it's it's Pac-Man game that looks like a space shooter game, but I mean it's pretty good, and he did a good job on it. And there's good things and bad things about it, so we'll get into that. But I've been playing that. Yeah. I got Berserk Enhanced. I haven't cracked it open because I don't want to open it. It looks so nice. I got Mr. Run and Jump, which I hate platform games, but then I got 2 other Video 61 games. And you guys should check out Video 61. Cheap games, pretty well. All of them are pretty decent. None of them are bad. What?
I've followed up on some of the releases, but to be honest, a lot of the games that they release are just not games that I've been all that enamored with to want to play. I mean, even as an example, I actually own very few homebrews.
Oh, wow.
I've certainly tested. Yeah, I really don't own that many homebrews.
I was going to say, you're involved in a couple, aren't you?
Yeah, I've tested. I've had my hand at testing a few of them over the years. But it's because unless it's something that I know I'm going to want to play often, then I don't want it to just sit as a shelf queen in the collection.
Right.
And that's largely what ends up happening, honestly, a large amount of the games I already have.
Don't look right there. Do not look in this space. Jesse, do not look right there.
Hey, I'm filming from the lab on purpose. I mean, there's pictures of my game room online, and it's kind of scary. But
Jerome doesn't have any home brews. Jerome, I'm going to kick you out of Morris Day in the Time.
Does he? What?
What is wrong,
you
bro?
Don't have any? I thought you just mentioned.
Send him John, send him one. Just
see that's not unusual. That's not unusual. I know quite a few people that. In fact, I mean, I have a pretty substantial collection of stuff myself here, but there are collectors in my state with far more vast, much deeper pockets, obviously, with a lot more stuff. And the reality is, most of them don't even play any of the stuff that they have. It's literally there as a look at me setup.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry to talk over you. Sorry to talk over you, Silverback, but so are these the type of people? I'm curious. Who bought this? The whole damn thing, Jesse. This.
Oh, the whole XP.
The XP.
I don't know. I can't. I'm only viewing what's on the YouTube side of things, and it's delayed, so I don't know what you're holding up yet.
Well, it's the Atari limited edition 50th anniversary 10 Atari games that glow in the dark when you stick them in the machine.
Okay. Yeah, you're talking about the complete collection of the 50th.
$1,000 for 10 Atari 2600.
Yeah. I didn't buy them. I wasn't part of that. In fact, speaking of the XP releases, I only own 2 of the games that released under the XP line. And that was Aquaventure because it was an actual game prototype that wasn't ever released. originally back in the day, but it's a complete game. It's a fun game. So I was all about buying that, but I didn't buy the crazy versions that have the marquees on them that light up. I just
Right.
bought the standard editions. And I also bought, which one is it? Yar's Return, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But
I
but I haven't bought any of the others, and certainly none of the re-releases for games that already exist, because I've already got multiple copies
Right.
of them.
Yeah, that's the
stashed
thing.
around the tower as it is.
Do you know people that have bought the entire 10?
I don't know anybody personally that's bought
Okay.
the entire set,
People
but there
have.
obviously have been people out there that have.
They're
Yeah.
sold out.
I
I was
have no
gonna
doubt.
I was gonna ask for addresses
Yeah, they
and whether or
sold
not
them
you.
all.
Yeah, I was gonna see if you had addresses and also if they had security systems.
Well, I
But,
want to clear up too. The reason I was telling you not to is in my latest video, I mentioned Video 61 at the very end as being a fantastic resource for buying new and sealed games and stuff. And somebody got on there and yelled at me for giving away all of our secrets. So I was trying
What
to tell
secrets?
Yeah,
They,
what secrets?
well, they were arguing. I'm not saying I agree with them. I was just joking, but they were arguing that Video 61 isn't well known, and apparently by me mentioning it, it was going to get out there, and scalpers were going to buy all his inventory and mark it
Well,
up.
good for him.
Right? Yeah,
I mean, good for them. That's what America is. you know?
right. But I was just teasing because
And that
it
dude
reminded
Lance
me of
has
his
had that
comment.
shit in his wherever his storage units or
Right.
or mansion for 40 years. Let the poor man get rid of the stuff.
He would love to sell it all to
I
a
bet.
scalper.
I bet he would. Let that
So
man.
Vinny, you've been playing some of the new stuff, and John, you said that you've been playing Mr. Run and Jump.
Yeah, that's about all I've had time to play.
I actually haven't been playing any Atari over the holiday season.
Put him in the poo-poo pot.
I'm a heathen right now on that. No, actually, I've been playing more of my second love, which is Sega.
Oh man,
And a lot of people have seen that. I'm sure my, what is it? I don't remember what they call it, but your customized title, I guess it is, on Atari Age, where I have it listed as Sega and Atari Antiquities. My two biggest collections are my Atari and Sega setup, and so I've actually been playing Saturn games.
Oh,
oh
nice.
yeah, I'd love the Saturn.
Well, it's weird because for some reason around Christmas time, usually around November, around the middle of November timeframe, I always fire up a game of Snatcher on the Sega CD.
Okay.
And that in turn will then lead to me wanting to play more Sega stuff. And usually it'll be stuff that maybe I only kind of started but never finished. We all have a backlog of that kind of stuff.
Right.
Especially collectors. And that's what happened this time. I played through a game of Snatcher on the Sega CD, and I thought, you know what? I actually bought 2 years ago an actual physical copy of Police Knots for the Saturn, and there's an English translation for it. And I'd never bothered to rip my game and apply the patch and check it out. So then I finally started to play Police Knots, and so that was pretty cool. And now I've started up a new game of Albert Odyssey, because that's another Saturn RPG that I've started a couple of times and just never finished, because like a lot of things, it's like, ooh, squirrel, something shiny comes along that detracts my attention for a while. And then by the time I remember it, I don't even remember where I was at in the game anymore.
What draws you to the Saturn? I mean, the Genesis is so famous. Everybody had a Sega CD. The Dreamcast is heralded.
Well, I actually own most of Sega's consoles. The weird thing is that I never owned any of them originally when I was a kid. I was strictly just Atari.
Right.
I did have a good friend of mine in high school that had a Genesis, and that was where I got my first real time playing it. Was he had his Genesis, and I can remember going over to his house and checking out when Sonic the Hedgehog came out, and that was really cool. And also he had Herzog's Y, which was like, a real early real-time strategy type game.
Now we're talking. Herzog's Y is one of the best games nobody has ever played.
Well, he and I played it, but I was horrible at it. And although I own it today, I rarely pick it up and play it because I just cannot grasp the concept of how to play.
Oh, wow.
Well, and this is coming from somebody. And what's really weird is like I love Dune 2 on the PC. I play it all the time. And I also have the Dune release for the Genesis, which is also a lot of fun. It's obviously stripped down to the PC version, but for a conversion on a console, it's a pretty good port. And I played a lot of the Command and Conquer type games. So it's not like I don't like the genre. it's just something about Herzog that I could just never quite get into. I don't know.
John Herzog, and the video game critic doesn't like it. He's given it a pretty average score, but to
be honest, it's really only good if you've got a legit second human player.
Right. Playing through the single player campaign is long and arduous, to say the least. But I was so effing good at that game. It's like a real life, real time strategy game where you create these weapons, you give them orders, and then you basically are in charge of a GoBot that picks up the stuff and delivers it around, and it can be a plane or a man that shoots, and the whole thing is you're trying to create weaponry that's going to attack the other base, and you've got little other bases, and there's like a money. It feels like you're spinning 5 plates at once. That's that kind of game, and it's for the time, dude, so good. Herzog's Why is something everybody should check out, and especially like Crossbow says, if you got a buddy, which who of us has that anymore, but if you got a buddy that wants to play old games with you, that's the best way to go about it.
Well, and on that same subject, you were talking about, why the Saturn and not the Genesis. I play the Genesis quite often, but like anything else, you have a phase, or you get into a certain mode of where this is like the console that you tend to start playing stuff on, and for right now, that phase for me just happens to be some Saturn games. So I mean, I don't have like a huge Saturn collection, thankfully, with the exception of Panzer Saga. I've got most of the other heavy hitters, and I got them years ago before they hit the prices that they are today.
What's the RPG you said that you like? I just want to check it out.
Albert Odyssey.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just one of several, but Albert Odyssey is pretty fun. It's easy to get into. It plays very similar. It's like a lot of other JRPGs of the era, where it's kind of turn based.
I like
static, like Final Fantasy. You're right. It's not a real time action role playing game.
I love those. But, if you start playing the Atari VCS, you mentioned Doom. This Maximum Beverage game is like a new Doom. And also, if you like...
Doom is actually one of my favorite. I still play Doom to this day. In fact, speaking of Doom, not only have I been playing some Doom, but John Romero. Everybody here is familiar with John Romero?
Right, yeah.
From Full House? No, I'm just kidding, dude. John Stamos. Never mind.
Stamos.
Yes, I know who he is.
Yeah. He's actually released a second new WAD pack for the original Doom, a sequel to the one he did a couple of years ago called Sigil. He just released Sigil 2. And he released the WAD for free if you just want to download it and play it. But he also offered it as a big box release, which, of course, I bought. And I haven't gotten it yet. But yeah, I've been playing Doom. And I still fire it up. And, the mod community for Doom is ridiculous.
I think you'd like Maximum Beverage. It's only $9, and there's another game on the Atari VCS called Days of Doom, which is a turn-based game, which is really pretty damn good. They put a lot of time into that. It's got voice acting, and that's an Atari game. And
once I get the VCS, one of the other reasons why I haven't actually even unboxed my VCS yet is because I just don't have anywhere to put it.
Right.
Oh, it's tiny. You can fit it anywhere.
It's not even that. It's just even the 2600 plus, it's not permanently connected up.
Right.
I unboxed it, checked it out, tested quite a few 7800 games with it, pretty much all the ones I had.
Did they all work?
All except for Rampage.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've heard Rampage was the one.
Rampage is the only 7800 physical cartridge I've tested that I can't get working at all on it, and that seems to be prevalent, so it's not just unique to my version of the cartridge or whatever.
You like Rampage too, right?
I do. Yeah, I actually,
you reviewed that on my website, didn't you?
I probably did.
His review's still up.
To be fair, when Rampage came out, I didn't even know there was a version for the 2600 at the time. In fact, I was shocked when I got back into retro gaming in the early 2000s to learn that not only did Rampage exist on the 2600, but that there was also a version of Xenophobe and Crossbow on the 2600, because I had actually asked my parents for the 7800 in around 87, 88, purposely for Crossbow and Xenophobe. Those are the two games that were being advertised in the Sears Wish books at the time. We all remember those.
Yep.
Do you remember those, John?
I do.
Okay.
I remember circling everything I wanted.
Okay. I didn't know if you're old enough for that. John's like
You
in his 30s, man. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah, I'm almost 40.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, that, thanks for putting things into perspective once again, Vinny. Appreciate it.
Hey, but
Always
like,
a pleasure.
I liked Rampage on the 7800 and Crossbow. I know that's where you love the game so much. That's where your nickname came from. But that
partially
that,
where it came from.
Also, there's you like Chewbacca too, or what?
What?
Chewbacca had a crossbow in Star Wars.
No, actually, that's a whole other deal. I'm actually I think I'm more of a Star Trek fan than I am Star Wars. But that's that's not a conversation for this video.
Well, I want to know, Crossbow, have you messed with the 1.1 update for the 2600 plus yet?
I wasn't invited to the beta test for that. No,
you weren't invited. God, I think they would have invited you for sure.
Well, partially is that, I didn't even know it existed until Ben from Play On had started to ask for additional volunteers. Okay. I didn't even know it was in the works.
God, I think they honestly reached out to you.
I mean, I have a pretty decent collection. I don't know that I'm the person they really want or that they were really looking for, because I don't think I have like a complete CBS game collection, for instance.
Okay.
I do have the ones that didn't work, so I could have more than happily have tested those. I've got a fairly extensive 7800 collection, but it's not, the funny thing is I've got a lot of games. I don't have any collection that's complete. I really don't. Of what I do have, I would say the 5200 and the 7800 are probably the closest to being complete, because of course I need the ridiculous heavy hitters for those that I'm not likely to ever find, at least not at a price that I'd be willing to pay.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't asked on that.
I figured they would have not only asked you, but sent you a 2600 plus free of charge so you could open it up and fix it for them.
I bought mine and pre-ordered it on the day that they pre-ordered them, or that the pre-orders went live. I bought mine within the first hour. In fact, I think my order number was like 7,000 something when I bought it.
Oh, okay.
And so I actually got mine near the release. Like they sent it 2-day FedEx Air to me.
Oh, okay.
When they finally released it, so I got mine pretty early. I didn't have to wait for the second batch. In other words, so I've had mine for a while.
Gotcha. So Jerome wants to know why Rampage 7800 doesn't work. It's because it's bank switching, right? It's one of the few games that uses.
It's possible. Switching. It's possible. I think there's another reason as well. So I was a victim of this in the late 80s. What a lot of people don't realize about the late Activision and Absolute titles, and by Absolute I mean the brand or the company Absolute that released games, which I'm pretty sure was probably just Activision under a different name,
right?
Like Atari and Tengen, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of those later made cartridges in the late 80s for the 7800 and probably the 2600, they're not even on masked ROMs; they're on EPROMs.
Oh.
And as a result of that, they die.
Yeah.
And I remember when I bought Tomcat, F-14 Tomcat for the 7800, and I think my copy lasted a week. And then it just wouldn't play anymore. And it was the first time and the only time, at least back then, that I'd ever had a cartridge that just flat out didn't work anymore. And I knew it wasn't something I had done, because I had always, even when I was a kid, I always kind of babied the Atari, because, again, you had to be there in the early 80s when all this was still new. But getting an Atari for Christmas back then was just like, a kid getting the latest, greatest PS5 today.
Right.
The difference back then was, and this is just difference in generations, we tended to treat our stuff a little bit better, I think.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a commonplace thing. After I got my Atari when I was a kid, the only time I ever got new games for it was pretty much on Christmas and birthdays, right? Because the games were still $30 even back then. We're talking 40 years ago. They were still $30 for brand new 2600 games. And people complain. I laugh when people complain about a game costing $80 today. I'm like, do the inflation on what $30 was 40 years ago, and then cry.
Right.
Socrates has jumped in here and said, asking of the guy named Crossbow with Ivory Tower underneath his name, is that Jesse from Ivory Tower of Crossbow fame? No, it's not. It's his brother. If you've ever heard like the Gallagher thing where there was two Gallaghers performing, this particular is the original Crossbow James, and they're actually in a big multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Him and his brother. Now, this is actually Jesse. This is Jesse here. Jesse.
Vinny, how do you sleep at night?
Hey, it's hard, man.
Very well on a big pile of money.
I just basically pass out every night. I have a question for Jerome. Jerome! So he said there's max beverage issues, which I can't believe we're talking about a video game named Maximum Beverage. It sounds like something that Pepsi would have put out in the 90s. But putting the little gimmick there, what the issues you're having. I just started playing, and I think it's actually pretty good. I just recommended it, and I just want to make sure I'm not.
Well, it's worth noting. I also see in the chat here that Sabretooth Retro, he's actually he just name dropped me here because he's talking about a UAV modded 7800 I did for him. He's also stating that Rampage works great in his 7800, which I would expect it to, but he it doesn't work on his 2600 plus either. So where I was going with that was the EEPROMs themselves have additional hardware in them. They've got an inverter chip, a hex inverter, because that you have to have that to invert the signals for an EEPROM to work on the console. And I think it's possible that may be also confusing the cartridge dumper that's in the 2600 plus, but that's just purely speculation. That's just my software guess. What's that?
Could that be fixed in software then?
I would think it probably can. And
okay.
And in fact, if you read over some of the later posts from Revenge and Trebor and some of the others that have been actually working with Atari a little more closely on stuff, that new update seems to be primarily 7800 emulation focused, which is kind of a surprise.
That's what I was reading. Yeah.
Because I would have thought that they would have wanted to focus that attention on getting all the 2600 stuff first, because that's primarily really what they've been promoting, really, like all the new XP lineup of games, run and jump, all that stuff is all 2600 type stuff. So it kind of surprises me they're really focusing on the 7800 as hard as they are, but that's also a good sign because and I want to bring up a point that one of the reasons why I bought the 2600 plus, I don't need a 2600 plus.
Right. Yep.
People know that given the work I do and the stuff I do, I mean, sitting up behind me that you cannot see is like 4 spare 7800s
behind the towel. Yeah.
Well, it's actually a bunk bed behind me. It's one of my kids' old bunk beds from when they were younger. I commissioned the room as the new lab after they moved out.
There you go.
No, the point I bought it because I wanted to support what Atari was doing, because when I saw the 2600 plus, I saw what they were doing. I saw what they were trying to do with it. Then that encouraged me that this, for the first time, and I don't think I'm alone in this thought.
Preach. I know what
you're
going to say.
For the first time since the Trammell era, we have not seen this much focus and attention on what we would consider classic Atari. And it's encouraging to me. So I bought the 2600 plus, not because I need it, not because I wanted to use it as my new primary console to play all my stuff, because I'll be honest, it's never going to replace my 7800 with all the jazz I've thrown into it, hooked up to my AV setup in the game room. I bought it to support them and to hopefully get more products like that, because it would be the coolest thing if Atari, the current Atari, had the ability to buy the rights or dig into the vaults that we only have heard rumors of, and pull some of those old games out and either re-release them again on the 7800 would be nice.
Well, let's go back.
Possibly, finish up and find or hire some of our incredibly talented homebrewers to finish up code that they find on some derelict 8-inch hard drive. To maybe bring out new stuff. And that's not going to happen if they don't have the support from the community that shows them that there's an interest.
Well, the 2600 plus is vastly outperforming the VCS. It seems like it's extremely popular. It's got tons of great press.
Yep.
And to go back to an earlier point, John and I, on one of our podcasts, somebody, I can't even remember, sometimes these people just come in, we have no idea who they are, but they're focusing on the 7800, according to this person. Now, correct me if I'm wrong about this, John, if I'm misstating this, because they want to do a re-release or like a rebranding of the Atari 7800, because it's vastly unknown and it can kind of pass off as a 2600 type thing. And they're going to go, look at all these enhanced, beautiful 2600 plus games, AKA a 7800. And it can be something that can just be very easily thrown out look at, you thought you liked adventure. Look at this brand new blah that Bob DeCrescenzo just made. And people are going to be like, whoa, my hair's blown back.
Right.
And it's just a real, and like we've said before, that calling it the 2600 plus is genius, because what this damn thing is a 7800.
Yep.
It's a 7800
Basically.
that's modded, but they knew nobody would give a shit about the 7800, so they just called it 2600 plus.
And they made it look the way they did because that's an iconic look.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Console.
And it's a business move, and it's brilliant, and it's one of the moves that they've done in the last 20 years. It was actually a good move.
Well, you're right. They're leveraging the iconic look, the iconic name, but there's also a lot of interest in the 7800. And just from my community, again, like you said, in the last 5 months, we got 1,200 people, and they all want 7800 content. I mean, it seems like there's a lot more attention for the 7800. Maybe
well, look at the homebrew explosion over the last couple of years.
Exactly.
That's largely been 7800 focused. I'm not saying that there hasn't been 2600 releases as well.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of the homebrew development on the 7800 has just been beyond awesome to see some of the stuff that they've managed to do.
Unreal. And they finally, I feel like they're listening to me or somebody else. Because last year when I talked about the VCS, I was like, do homebrews on the VCS store. And that's now what we're saying. Today, Revan Tully's Dragon Trilogy has been put in the store for $4.99 each.
Yep.
The physical is going to cost you what, $50 each or $60 each?
Well, but keep in mind, I'm sure you guys know this, but part of the cost of those games isn't just for the materials. Each of the authors gets royalties off of each of one sold from Atari Age.
Right, and I'm not saying it's bad. I've got all three. I've actually got three right here with a little blue dragon and a red dragon sitting on the shelf because I'm just so damn giddy about Atari stuff. But I went today and bought those three for $5 because I like you want to buy the 2600 plus. I also want to show Atari, hey, when you do these Atari 7800 homebrews, I want to support my friends. They're not really my friends, but I feel like they're my friends. These people that I buy these games from, that I review, and I also sometimes say your game sucks or this was a stupid game. I also want to support them because I know they're all hobby guys and they're just doing it because they love the system. And I hope they know that even if I chastise a game, it's just because if I say this game sucks and then later say your other game is terrific, people are going to be, if there's a hierarchy there, they're going to be like, wow, this other game's probably damn terrific. If Vinny said this other one was that good, on my website, Danger Zone from Muddy Funster got a 2.5. Well, EXO got a 5. So people hopefully will be like, I got to check that. I like Danger Zone. I'm going to check that EXO out. So that's where the hierarchy. But anyway, I want to support the folks.
I'm biased on EXO.
Yeah,
that's a good game, boy.
I had just a tiny little bit of involvement with that
one. Your name's in there and my name's in there. And John, is your name in the EXO?
No. Me and Muddy, he doesn't know me yet. No. He will.
I'm actually technically in there. Well, I don't. I'm actually saving up my money for the special. You guys knew about the special edition release that's going to be made for EXO, right? EXO.
Oh
no.
Yeah. Albert's got a special limited edition version he's going to release. It's obviously going to cost more, but it's going to have like a soundtrack CD that comes with it.
You guys heard it here.
Things like that. No, he mentioned it, but I did get pre-notice of that information a year ago because EXO originally, EXO's been done, like baked, done, ready to go for over 2 years.
Well, they had trouble on the physical copy getting the sound to work right. But I know one of the earlier rooms is called the Ivory Tower. I do remember. Oh, that's one of the actually. So I think it's on the first level near the end.
It is. It's on the first level. I think most of the testers have a level named after, or a room named after them in that first world.
Well, he named a room after me on the third world that looks like a GD sewer. It kind of offended me. I was like, mine should have disco ball lights and.
I don't know of any other one other than the other. I don't know of any other room other than the one on the first level that's actually just below the Ivory Tower room.
There's one called Funk Burrow.
That Funk Burrow is the one that's on the first.
Oh, is it on the first level too?
Yeah, Funk Burrow's on the first world.
Okay.
and it sits under the ivory tower room.
Yes, where I think all your sewage drips down into my apartment there or whatever.
It's got to go somewhere, man, and I don't trust it to anybody else.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It smells like funk in there, I'll tell you. Do we have? We've blown through an hour fast. Do we have any?
Yeah, that was quick.
Comments we need to talk about before we say?
Oh God, there's been a ton.
Well, do you guys have any favorite consoles besides Atari, or even among Atari, do you have what your favorite console might be?
I like the Nintendo Switch.
This is just me finding things to just kind of spice.
I like the Nintendo Switch, and I actually don't play it. I play it on the TV. I like Nintendo franchises pretty well, and I've always wished the Atari would take the Nintendo flavor, and it seems like they are now. Like with Food Fight, they have a little universe where you walk around like Splatoon. And you talk to people. They keep making, but this new Atari group keeps making Bentley Bear an a-hole. Like he's in these new games. He's always like, "I hate your guts. Get out of here, kid."
You smell like a cafeteria.
Yeah, you smell like a bean fart. Get out of my arcade. You're like, this is our Mario. Why are you making? And so now they're inventing people like Pistol Pete is from Outlaw. That guy didn't have a name, but they're trying their damnedest. And I Outlaw's not
Pistol Pete's actually a mascot for Oklahoma State University.
There you go. Did he play there? Yeah. I thought he played for LSU.
No, but he was an actual guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was like an actual, old timer from the Old West known as Pistol Pete.
Yep.
I thought you meant Maravich. You're actually talking. But I don't think the other weird thing about Atari right now is I just don't. Outlaw is not going to save the company. I don't know why they're putting time into that.
I do have to question some of that a little bit. Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to save the
company. Save Mary was a smart one though. Save Mary was a smart release because that's another game that never really got an official release. And I never saw any follow-ups on this. Did they actually make the game or fix it so it actually works on legit 2600s? Or
yes.
Is it still...
Yep. That was
so it's not 7800 only like it was originally.
Right. Nope. Yep. That's a 2600 version.
Because I don't know if most people knew that, but it was a weird thing that Save Mary, although it's a 2600 coded game, it only actually worked on 7800 consoles in its original prototype form. So I was curious if they'd ever corrected that to legit work on a 2600.
I don't think they've shipped them yet, but the word is they work on 2600 units.
Now I've got an article.
I missed out on that pre-order. I missed out on that one because it sold out.
I got it.
I got an article on my website where I don't rank, but I talk about all the weird artwork for Save Mary that has popped up, and now there's
I remember that actually.
There's 3 more. They have one where she's a big, thick-legged superhero woman. And now they got one that looks like she's a goth chick, pretty hot, and then there's another one that looks like she's from Apartment 3G, that old comic book. Or comic strip. It was just this terrible artwork.
Weren't you secretly hoping, though, Vinny, that they'd still have the one with her mouth agape?
I've got that one. That's it. Yeah, there's like a lot of sexualized things. We don't have enough girls in the Atari universe.
You do have to wonder what the artist who was making that, what his reference material might have been.
Who knows? There's one. Yeah. Are you talking about the one that's that looks like Recessa Annie? Or a sex doll or whatever. Save Mary's pretty good game, but they also to piggyback on that, Fatal Run is a good release too, because that was never released in the United States.
7800,
right? But the 2600 version was never released in the United States. That was a PAL only version, so that's something that we've never had. But again, why not just release the 7800 version as the 2600 plus, but we'll get to that, I guess.
I'm one of the lucky ones that has the 7800 version complete in the box.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I do too. Have you played Fatal Run on 2600? How is that?
It looks like butt.
I was gonna say it doesn't look that great.
I haven't tried it.
Oh yeah, there's my Recess Annie joke or sex doll. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you. Look at that. Now see, we gotta. That's just basic programming. That was a lazy ass move there.
What is that cover from?
That's basic programming. That's an
basic
Atari
programming.
Yeah, okay. Atari 2600 basic programming. That Save Mary I like.
I didn't know it had ever released with that cover before. I don't think I'd ever seen that.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of these.
I've seen many of the others, but I hadn't seen that one with the basic programming.
What a
Yeah.
great
Reused
resource
artwork.
this website is. What is this website?
No, that's Atari 7800 forever. I heard that guy
Oh,
who
wow.
runs it has a very large male member.
You know, we were talking about this
I heard the
before, but to
opposite.
go back on the subject of Outlaw, I mean, while releasing that game or re-releasing that game is odd to me, I can certainly understand why they did new artwork for it.
Yes, OJ.
Yeah.
OG, it's live.
Well, I
Didn't he
mean,
ask-
you know, they were able to get away with a lot more 40 years ago in regards to that versus now. In fact, it amazes me when I play, like I mentioned before, I tend to play a game of Snatcher around the holidays on the Sega CD, and it just amazes me how much they got away with in that game
Yeah.
when you compare it with all of the other sci-fi type stuff that was obviously lifted to make the storyline. And even in Snatcher, the whole time, or not Snatcher, but even with Police Knots, the whole time I'm playing it, I just see Riggs and Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon. So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
again, I mean, you'd have to play the game or look at it to understand, but that's completely where the dynamic for the partnership came from, was obviously from those movies.
well,
So-
old video games, and especially computer games, it was a whole universe that most people, most squares don't never even were aware of. So they would never go. The people that created Lethal Weapon was never going to play a game and go, wait a minute. You know, they had no idea. They thought back then everybody thought video games were for children, and I guess
well, Snatcher and Police Knots is not for kids.
no.
Right. Oh, God. No.
Well, those are the games most of the kids play.
Yeah, right. OG Hugo wants to see something from you, Vinny.
Well, I just mentioned my large member.
I think that's.
I mean, I got an OnlyFans if you want to get on that thing.
I'll step out at this point. I don't know.
And we lost Crossbow forever.
Oh,
That's
man.
it, yeah.
We got. Let's see. Save Mary is fun. Atari is making Jerome broke.
Me too, honey. I'm telling you,
You
like
ain't kidding.
this last, they had a couple sales. I bought Combinera, which was an Atari game for the VCS.
What
I
is
bought
it?
Combinera. I can't remember. I don't know how you pronounce it. I've never heard anybody say it. It's one of the Atari games for the Atari VCS. It's a puzzle type game. I bought they had Planet Defense Force for $2.
Did they really?
Yes.
Planet
And
Defense Force. Why does that sound like something that I would hear from Mark Bussler at Classic Game Room or something?
It's actually
Probably.
it looks like a cool game. I haven't played it yet and then I got they had Atari 50th celebration on the VCS for $14, and
Nice.
that's a hell of a deal.
That's
and
a good deal.
I had it on the Switch, and I wanted to play the games with the paddle controller. And this is something I was wanting to talk about: is Tempest 2000 sucks on the Atari VCS version because
How
the
dare
classic
you.
controller.
Oh, okay.
Oh no!
Actually, I'll make that even worse for you, John. My favorite version of Tempest 2000 is the Saturn version.
There's a Saturn version.
There is a version on the Saturn, and it plays.
How
at
do
like
I take
60, and
them
it
off?
plays at like 60 frames.
Oh, yeah. Well, in that case, yeah.
But do you have
There's
pedal
something about the
controls?
Jaguar version.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's just using the standard, Saturn controller, so
I
it's
just-
just like playing it on the Jag without
Yeah.
rotary.
Yeah.
You gotta have that. If you have that rotary, man, that's the thing. The problem with the
Which-
Tempest 2000 on the Atari VCS, when you use the classic controller, you can't steer
Yep. Yeah.
during the warp zones.
See, and what's odd about that is that's the exact reason why I don't like using the rotary on my actual Jaguar with Tempest 2000 is because when
Or
you get to the bacon zones, as I call them, you can't control. You have to have a controller in the second port, and you
Yep.
have to quickly
Yeah.
grab it in order to control yourself in the bonus stages to get through all the rings because you can't do it with the
Oh.
rotary. And that's just kind of inconvenient and weird to me to have to suddenly put down the rotary and
Yeah,
grab
that
this.
is weird.
I just like making feminine people go yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes, over and over again.
Actually-
It makes me feel good. Low self-esteem.
I'm talking the guy that did those voices. I was talking to him online, and the yes, 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 the woman you're talking about was his wife. So I'll have to let him know. that,
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You found that guy that
I
did
found
the weird
that
voices
guy. Yep.
that Jeff
And he-
mentors games?
Yep, I found that guy. He's an interesting guy. So
Did he do the Jeff Mentor's Anka R or whatever that?
I haven't
game
played that
is?
one. I've played the
I'll have to ask
original
him.
arcade ROMs that were leaked for MAME, but it was another one I couldn't really get into. I
thought it was pretty cool.
It's a cool concept, but I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
haven't
I just
played
wasn't
it
very
yet.
good at it, so I kind of lost interest on that one.
So you've not played the new one or the old one, John?
The Anka R? No.
Whatever, yeah. What?
Nope.
You call yourself the Atari Network?
Well, I'm saving it.
Okay. But anyway, so you
Vinny, the great thing about Atari is that there's so much of
Yep.
so much of it that there's always something new to discover.
That's true. Yeah, I have never
wait until John starts playing more into the Atari 8-bit realm of things and the thousands of releases that exist
into
for
that
platform.
Yep.
So you've talked to the guy that did the pleasure voice.
Yep, that exact guy, and he did all kinds of stuff for Atari. He started out as a game tester in 1986, and he worked his way up to a producer type credit for a lot of Jaguar games. So that's going to be a lot of fun to.
We need to have. Are you bogarting this interview? You're not doing it on our show. You're going to do it on
we'll
your
bring him on. I'm going to do two things with him. I'm hoping, and then we're going to bring him on here to talk about his career with Atari and the culture and stuff. That's my hope. I mean, we'll see.
Oh, just make sure you're taken care of, and then maybe you'll slum and bring Vinny around and talk to the voice actor.
Oh,
well, I want to say the group of people that did Maximum Beverage, if you need voice acting, I'm a voice actor. Go to my IMDb. I've been on a lot of things. I've been in leads in movies, feature films. That whoever you hired for Maximum Beverage, I can't.
There you go. You've answered your own question. You've had your 15 minutes and more.
There you go. Yeah.
I want to be in an Atari game. I want to voice act an Atari game.
It's time for me and Jesse to have our time.
Actually, having said that, I've been on TV more than once. Only local news, though.
I'll tell you
not for problem reasons, not for things like that.
I was going to say cops.
No, it was for interviews. Vinny might remember this, he might not, but around the same time that I was doing reviews for Jose Q's EMU Views, was also when I started up a local convention here in Oklahoma.
I remember that.
That was, in fact, the very last news post that was ever on the EMU Views website was when I started the very first convention here called OKGE for Oklahoma Gaming Expo in 2003. And then I proceeded to do it until the last event, which was in 2015. But where I was going with that is I would, of course, promote the event on local news stations. So, I've been on TV. But I don't know that really.
I'll tell you what, whoever's out there wanting to make a new voice acting Atari game, let me be your lead character. Then Jesse can be my gay lover. We can just do that whole right hand turn, and John can be our humanoid mutant pet slug.
Yeah,
that we talk to, and we just go, "Oh, Silverback," and we kick him across the room.
And where's my drink?
Where's my drink?
Hey, Jolt 7800 has a question here in the chat. Looks like it's related to me. He's asking if I trained in computer science. So no, actually, I did go to college. Almost completed a degree plan. Almost, but two things happened. One is that's when I discovered I'm really bad at math.
Really?
Oh yeah, math is by far my worst subject. I'm fine with the basics of math. I've always have been. But when you start getting into things with the algebraic formulas, trig, calculus, geometry, I'm okay for because that's more visual to me. So I can kind of visually get around and guess my way through geometry stuff. But when it comes to anything more advanced than that, I don't do well with unknowns, which is what all of that stuff is. Yeah. And I could never remember all the different steps and the rules and what have you.
I don't blame you. Math is evil. I hate it.
Yeah, right.
And I'll be honest, I've not really needed to use any of it.
Most people don't.
No. Yeah.
But having said that, no. I've got other certifications, in other fields. But a lot of the stuff I do, as far as what you see on the channel, is just self-taught because ever since I was a boy, my toys didn't stay in one piece very long.
Gotcha.
So I've always kind of been a tinkerer and always kind of took stuff apart. And my parents used to call me Mr. Destructo. The difference now, though, of course, is that it took a couple of years, but at least now I can put things back together.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go, and it works. That's the big.
Yeah,
thing.
usually.
See, they always come with extra parts for me that I can't fit back in, so I call.
But no, a lot of what I've done is just kind of self-taught, and I've mentioned this in other places. But my soldering skills, I learned it rather unconventionally. When I was 10, my stepdad signed us up for a summer program to do something cool, like this, like you sign up, and it was stained glass windows. And so he did leaded stained glass windows, but because of the trickiness of it and the expense of it, I opted for copper foil stained glass windows, which is exactly what it sounds like. You still have to cut your tray, so you cut the glass, you use a grinder to get it to the shapes you need, you put it together, and then you actually use copper foil tape that you wrap around each piece of glass, you set them together, and then you solder it all as one piece. So you could say my very first experience with a soldering iron was when I was 10 years old, and I learned how to do copper foil stained glass windows.
Wow.
Now, you still don't fool around with stained glass, do you?
No.
Oh, okay. I love stained glass. Is
no, it was kind of a passing thing. I mean, I did a couple of little stained glass projects during that year with my stepdad and myself, and then, like a lot of things, I just kind of picked up and went.
Well, of course.
Well, to be honest, though, we also moved. I mean, we moved a lot when I was a kid. So,
do you have any of your old stained glass?
One. I have one piece left.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Cool. You got to bring it on next time you're on the show.
Yeah, next time.
No, I really don't. It's pretty atrocious looking. I mean, again, I was 10 years old, but just so everyone knows, it's a big letter J. That's all it is. It's a big letter J because that's my first name.
Because you love the Jets. You love New York.
It actually sits in the window of my game room. That's actually where it sits. I don't actually see it though because I always have the blinds drawn because I keep the game room. I try to keep the sunlight out of it.
That's right. So, just funny about Generation X to me. I'm thinking about children these days at 10 being allowed to fool with glass and grinders. I think everybody'd be like, no.
Right.
You're gonna cut your precious fingers.
Hey, I rode a bicycle all the time, and not once did I wear a helmet.
No.
Right.
I mean, I mean.
And I've got plenty of scars to show what happens from that, But I'm still here.
I got to tell you, I might have picked on kids that did have to wear helmets, and I might have picked them up and thrown them around and stuff. And I have asked the big man in the sky for forgiveness, but
hey,
we used to make fun of
even more than that. I mean, this gets parents thrown in jail now, but we didn't have car seats when I was a kid.
Right.
No.
Who had that?
Well, except for your parents.
My parents didn't have. My parents.
I was just. Are they still around? I don't know what the statute limitations.
My parents. I still have my mother's still with me today.
I don't want to get thrown in jail. Everybody, but you're.
No, but I'm just stating that even when I was younger, because my mother worked a lot, I'd had to stay at basically a daycare, not just during the day, but also sometimes in the evening because my mother worked 2 jobs, and they would pick me up from school along with several others when I was like in kindergarten, 1st grade, and we just all pile on the back of a station wagon.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Well, and this is a daycare. This is a daycare. They're like responsible for 100 kids.
Interstate travel in the back window of a sedan.
If you saw that today, they'd pull you over for trafficking.
They'd shoot you. They'd shoot the father in the head on sight. No questions asked. They'd shoot him. But
we were apparently Gen X was definitely the last generation of going outside to play all the time, and of a lot of that, a lot of the safety stuff that we now have came about during the course of our generation.
Hey, Vinny, Pack Billy wants to know where he can find your voice acting demo reel.
I just
have it on your.
I don't have one online, but you can. I've got an acting demo reel, which will probably make you cry. Yeah, it's on.
We should watch that on the show sometime.
Vinny, you might be interested to know that I still. I mean, not a lot, but I still talk with Jose every now and then at Jose Q's.
That's cool. Yeah.
He's on Facebook pretty actively, and he actually hosts an actors workshop in the Dallas area.
Really?
Oh, wow.
He's an actor too. And the reason we probably should say Jose Q MU Views was really the first place that really was kind of this third party place where everybody got together and talked about old video games. And a lot of these things were only like 8 or 9 years old. You know, we're still playing Skyrim. It's 12 years old. But back then there was a big discrepancy between that period of like the Genesis and Nintendo and the stuff like the PlayStation 1, and people were talking about it. And so I created my website in conjunction with Jose. Jose's website helped influence like, oh, this is the thing you can do. And it will have, and
There
so
you
it
go.
helped me start mine while I was like, oh, people will want to read my opinions on video games. And the Atari 7800 was so strange. And I was living in the South at the time that the games, the really cool games, did not come down south. So there was like this, if you had Alien Brigade or Ninja Golf, people down south, if you had an Atari, never even heard of those things. And
Well,
To be honest, Vinny, I
think
didn't
that's
know
everywhere.
those games existed either, even when I had a 7800.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest shocks to me when I got back into retro gaming in the 2000s, was discovering all these games that existed that
were awesome.
I never remembered or certainly didn't see adverts for when I was a kid. You remember I told you at the beginning that, you know, Crossbow and Xenophobe on the 7800 were two of the games that made me want to have a 7800. And the funny thing about that is of those two games, Crossbow was the only one I actually ever got in the day, because I never saw
That's a good one.
Xenophobe in the stores.
Yeah.
I saw it mentioned, of course, like I said, in the old Sears Wish books and other places, but I never actually saw it for sale anywhere for me to actually purchase it.
I was able to buy Xenophobe. I got an article on my thing called the Pro System Posse, which are the 9 games that were kind of the ones that were like elusive and came to the very end, and they were exclusive to the 7800. Those
well, Ninja Golf is one of those, and I didn't know anything.
Ninja Golf, Alien Brigade, Planet Smashers, Meltdown, Fatal Run.
Obviously, the two Frogo releases.
No, those weren't on there, I don't think.
No, I'm talking about Atari release, but like Scrapyard Dog, those. Hey, there you go. God, John, you were just
that. We had Meltdown, Alien Brigade, Basket Brawl, Fatal Run, Midnight Mutants, Motor Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ninja
a lot
Golf,
of those games I
Planet
never knew
Smashers,
about. But
Scrapyard
to be fair, although I had the 7800, you know, when it was still fairly relevant, I guess. It was late 89 when I got my first computer. And I got to be honest, I didn't touch console gaming for a decade after that. So, you know, a lot of those releases came out after I pretty much already had put the 7800, not necessarily to pasture, but it was in storage and not getting touched anymore.
What are you giggling about?
Look at all them knocked out.
That's how I play.
Was that a game you actually played?
Yes, I'm the unofficial world champ.
Everybody's
Basket Brawl, man. That's actually Basket Brawl. I think is I think its rarity value should be changed. Honestly.
Yeah,
I love that game. That's one.
Because it's harder to find than a lot of people might realize.
Yeah, it's getting hard. Game. It's expensive too.
Well, all of them are.
It didn't used to be, but it certainly has gotten up there.
Oh yeah, they all gone way up.
I've got something I got to get into real quick. We want to thank Jesse Crossbow. He's a genius.
Yeah,
like we've said before, me and John are just two damn gorillas that were like, we like video games. Crossbow's more of the type of person you'll see in this hobby. He's a guy who can actually solder. He just said that. He can fix games. He has a thing called Ivory Tower Collections where he actually helps people mod 7800s and televisions and things. And basically, he's made the Atari 2600 Plus 15 years ago. Yeah. But you can contact. What's the best way for people to find you to get to give you business and so they can have something awesome?
Well, obviously, you know, I do have a YouTube channel. Just search for Ivory Tower Collections, and it's going to be the first hit that comes up. Yeah. And that again, it's well overdue for a new video soon. And I probably should look into more doing some of the unofficial review type stuff I used to do before I did all the tech stuff. But honestly, the tech stuff seems to be what most people wanted to view and watch, which is why I gravitated to that. But in addition, there's also I also do and post. Most of the information related to the Ivory Tower Collections business side of things is on Facebook. Again, go to Facebook, search for Ivory Tower Collections. You'll find it.
Okay. And that's the best way somebody can say, hey, I got a 7800. I need you to mod it. They can contact
They
me.
can also send me an email to itclabs@cox.net. That's COX.
Thanks for clarifying that with the intellect of this show. Hey, I liked OG Hugo's here when I said me and Crossbow should play Gay Lovers. Can you highlight that one?
What is it? Oh,
when
right.
I said, yeah, that made me about spit my shit out when Crossbow was talking about something. I saw that. So anyway, just keep in mind, John's got a brand new channel called the Atari Network. You're probably watching that on here instead of mine, but his channel is awesome. And John, you've done a great job with your channel, the Atari Network. And then I've got, you can always check us out on Big and Funky Productions. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We've got movies. We've got our paranormal television show is about to take off again. And we're about to showcase this legendary wrestling show that I wrestled at actually was the booker for, and it was on Fox for 6 months before we all got fucking fired back in the 6 years ago or whatever, or 8 or 9 years ago now. But anyway, we're going to start showing that on our if anybody cares about that stuff. But every 2 weeks, we're going to be doing this show. Yep. And we want you live so we can chat with you. And we're going to hopefully have Lance Rehnquist soon from Video 61, who's been a Atari retailer for 40 years. Jesse will come back often because we love him and he's a big part of the scene. And if he wants to come back, and again, by all means, I had
fun. Hopefully everybody was enjoyed my banter.
Yeah, definitely different flavor. And if you want to chat. We want to read every chat. If you want to cut the line, do a super chat and donate some money to John's channel, and that way we'll definitely stop everything and read your chat immediately if you want to do that. And also, our arch rival Canadians, we're Team USA, motherfuckers. Baltimore, Detroit, and Oklahoma right here, and Tennessee too. Yeah, I'm telling you.
I have to be nice to the Canadians. They're a large part of my Intellivision business, to be honest.
These freaking Canadians have a show going on right now. Zero Page Homebrew?
Zero Page Homebrew, yeah.
And they got so many cats, and all they do is talk about mullets and hockey and Atari. But go check them out, and they'll play some games.
You'll probably find me there most of the time as well.
Look at this guy. He's probably going to take off and tell them. He's going to talk behind our backs, John, to these Canadians.
Actually, you're good. They're on vacation right now, so there's
they're not on tonight?
Yeah. ZPH isn't streaming currently.
So what I was really doing was making them look bad. So you guys would go over there and check them out and be like, and they'd be like, "Oh, these Americans are even better than these."
Maybe it's one of the reasons why I was available.
There you go.
That's very hurtful.
No.
Okay.
I can always make time.
He gets his money from the Canadians, so you got to remember.
He gets loonies. It's like he has to get paid twice as much.
No, I do have a couple of clients that are very frequent repeaters on services.
Well, we love Canadians, and John's a Canadian too. He lives in Toledo. He's spit over there and hit Canada. But anyway, we love you guys. Thank you for everything. And John, you got anything else?
Yep. Don't forget the podcast name is going to change, but it's still the same show. It's still me, Vinny. Crossbow's going to jump on. We'll get Lance on. It's still the same show. Even though the name changes to the Atari Network podcast, don't forget to check out Atari7800forever.com, where you can read all the reviews of Atari 7800 games, read the fun articles like we were showing off before, like the Save Mary stuff, the Atari 7800 Posse 9, whatever it was. All that fun stuff is on there, and that's always going to be a part of the podcast. So make sure you save that, you bookmark it, and check it out.
Somebody says they hate change. We're talking about the Atari VCS and the 2600 Plus more than anything, so we just decided you got to make things simple for people to understand, because
Well, I just want to say thanks for the invite, guys, and I appreciate you guys having me on, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. You're awesome, man. And one day you're going to have to. This, you can't even see it, but I don't have a damn modded 7800. You see all this
Yeah, you gotta
I
help
gotta
Vinny
get
out.
that fixed. I got the
You gotta
old
help
stuff.
out.
John, you're going to sit there and say, I need to help Vinny out. I seem to recall that there's a conversation maybe taking place where you've been kind of maybe toying with the idea of maybe getting one.
Yeah, I
set up?
got to get some stuff done from you too. I got some stuff to fix and a 5200 I need you to look at. But yeah,
Uh-oh. Is that malfunctioning?
no, I want to get right now I'm running it through VCR to capture device to TV.
I will tell
to
you that the
laptop.
UAV does exceptionally well on the 5200 because the UAV was designed for the 8-bit computers, and the 5200
Oh,
is
wow.
basically a supercharged Atari 400. So
Well, there you go.
it shares the same. It shares all the same video circuitry. So in the case of the 5200, it really works well on that system.
Well, there you go. And everybody, if you need your 5200 done, the guy right below us, that's who you want to reach out to.
Hey, just reach out and ask. You'd be surprised at the things I work on.
There you go.
All right. And also, if Atari is watching, we need to be your official fucking podcast.
Please.
And I swear we will quit cussing
Benny will
on the
stop
show,
cussing.
and we'll do 75%.
I was going to say, I'd be real curious to see what Vinny's jar must look like on that.
I'll wear a nice shirt.
Yeah, we'll wear a button down. Just hire us. Your current roster of people on your podcast are a bunch of millennials and Zoomers
They
that
are-
suck. I'd rather watch somebody suck farts out of a seagull. Hire us. Love you.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Lord.